Welcome to Shimmy Real Talk. This week we're going to be addressing one aspect of the real estate transaction, which is shopping for insurance. We received a lot of questions this week in terms of what should I watch out for, what do I need to be looking for. Well, first of all, you already established the location where you're going to be shopping for a house, the school zone for the kids and whatnot. But how do you know if you're going to be able to afford the monthly payments of the house? You got to pay insurance, you got to pay taxes, you got to pay your mortgage installment and your repair and maintenance. One of the things that a lot of first-time home buyers fall for, they don't pay attention of how much the insurance is on the house before they start shopping. What they care about is the price and the location, which is still, location is very important. We said real estate is all about location. But let's say you're buying in Central Florida and you're going to be coastal, near the beach or near the river. It's a big difference for a property to be right on the water or it's inland. So you can buy a $150,000 house, for example. It could be in Central Florida, but the insurance will be significantly less than if it's coastal and it's right on the beach and the age of the house. And that can really affect the affordability of the home. If your insurance payment at $1,000 a year is much different than is $5,000 a year, and that might have your loan process denied. So we have the pleasure this week to have an expert with us. He's Mr. Roy Malfers. He's the CEO of Today Financial Group out in Brevard County here in Central Florida, and he's been in business for over 20 years. And we're going to be asking him a few questions to start to guide us in terms of how can we be able to be more educated shopping for a house, and once we start getting our insurance process going, how we can be prepared for what to expect. So let me introduce Mr. Malfers. How you doing, Mr. Malfers? How are you?
Very good. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I really appreciate that.
And he likes to be called Rocky. Rocky
Absolutely.
is the man. If you are in Brevard County, that's where you look for it. So Rocky, our listeners, our viewers also, they're concerned about, we're talking mainly about the first-time home buyer. And in your experience, what they need to watch out for, what they need to look for shopping for the insurance?
Well, you hit the nail on the head when you said location. Obviously, something coastal is going to have a higher risk of suffering from wind damage from hurricanes. So something on the coast, on the beach, or within 3 miles of tidal water is simply going to be rated differently than something inland, over 10 miles, for example, from the coast or tidal water. It is going to be more expensive to insure properties of any kind on the coast. Or the barrier islands here, especially here in Brevard County. Now, with that said, there's also the age of the home and
when
updates.
you say age of the home, is there anything to be specific? Like, for example, in certain parts of Orlando or Central Florida, you'll see a lot of homes 2005 and newer. In Pine Hills, or if you go to Windermere, you're going to see a lot of 80s houses. Here in Brevard County, there is mobile homes, and there is houses that are built in the 60s and the 50s. There is brick houses, there is gable roof, hip roof. You know, when it comes to a first-time home buyer, usually they work on a very restricted budget. Mm-hmm. And insurance is always a big factor of their monthly payment. What is the main factors that affect the insurance premium?
Any house that has its updates, a new roof after 2002. 2002 was when the new roofing codes went into effect, and your roof is going to have, the hip. It's more likely going to be a hip roof with clips or wrap attachments at the trusses. So houses built after 2002 or houses before 2002 that have their updates. And when I say updates, I mean roofing, a new water heater, electrical boxes updated, aluminum wiring mitigated, and things such as if you have hurricane protection on the windows. So those little updates can be determined with what we call a wind mitigation inspection.
And that inspection is part of the home inspection, or is that something separate?
No, it is a separate inspection, and then there's also the 4-point inspection. So those are two specifically homeowners insurance oriented inspections. It's not a pre-purchase inspection. It's an inspection specifically designed to tell an insurance company, for example, the 4-point tells the insurance company, yes, this house qualifies to be insured. So it would pass all 4 of the points on the inspection: the roof, the plumbing, the electrical system, and the HVAC system.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So let's say we're looking at 2 identical houses in the same neighborhood or even next door to each other with the same square footage, because I know the square footage does affect also on the premium. The bigger the house is, the higher the insurance. And one of them have an older roof than the other. Does that mean they will have different insurance prices?
It would mean they have different insurance prices if the newer roof qualifies for the wind mitigation discounts. And like I said, if it's after 2002, they stand to save. I've seen anywhere from $300-400 to $1,300 or $1,400 a year on their insurance, based on a new roof. And the key to that is after 2002, which is when the new building codes went largely into effect. Now, as far as the older homes, keep in mind when I say older homes, we insure houses, built in the 20s and 30s. But as long as the updates are done and it meets the new codes, then generally speaking, a client's in good shape. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to cost an arm and a leg, as long as those updates are done and it shows up on the inspection.
So from what I understand from you, just to make the viewers, the listeners are understanding as well, that means when they look for a property and they're going to look at a house, they want to make sure they ask the questions on what have been updated on the house in terms of roof, plumbing, and electric, and the AC unit.
AC unit, exactly. Yeah. And that is absolutely key.
Okay, and that's what affects the insurance premium. Now, when they're shopping for a house, usually they have a budget for a down payment. Does the insurance get rolled in the payment, or do they have to pay the lump sum for 1 year in advance? Or how do they budget for shopping for insurance? Let's say we have one of our viewers, he's actually actively looking for a house right now, and he is starting to submit few offers. So once he has an offer accepted, where does he begin with the insurance process?
Well, once you've chosen a house, you want to start shopping the insurance costs. Now, once you've chosen a policy, your agent usually can coordinate very easily with the mortgage broker or the realtor to do the payment at closing. So it's really up to the client and how all the mortgage company wants to set it up. But more often than not, an annual premium is collected at closing and paid to the insurance company by the title company or the closing agent. And then what happens is your first year is paid in full. Mortgage companies want to see that. That's a primary tenet that they require. However, you will start paying in your escrow every month as a part of your mortgage. You'll be paying into your escrow every month that will go towards the premium for the following year. So even though you've already paid a year in advance for your policy, you will probably start immediately on your first mortgage payment paying into escrow for the second year.
And then that's how the monthly payment gets calculated based on the insurance payment factored in with their taxes and their escrows and whatnot.
Right, your mortgage, your taxes.
I see.
Your insurance.
I see. So what would be, you've been doing this for 20 years. I know you do all kind of lines of insurance. You do commercial, you do residential, you do business liability, which we're hopefully gonna see you soon in the future in one of our business episodes. But what would be your final thoughts or your advice for the first-time home buyer who doesn't really have the experience or the knowledge that you possess? What would be the first or the thing that you tell them to watch out for?
Well, when you're looking at a house, it can be an older house, and that's okay. It can be a brand new house. But if you do settle on an older house, just make sure that you ask the questions regarding the roof update, the electrical updates, the plumbing, notably the water heater, and the AC systems. Now, those do have a huge impact on the premium, especially the roof. And you also want to find a house in an area, if possible, where you're within 1,000 feet of a fire hydrant, within 2 miles of a fire station, and also as far as the inspections go, that's usually something you have done after you've chosen a house. So it's not like you're going to have inspections done as you shop.
I see. So pretty much because this inspection do come with a cost.
Oh, absolutely.
And what would be the average cost for an insurance inspection?
Usually they are a tandem deal. It's generally speaking in the $125 to $150 range. There are some fellows out there that give even deeper discounts for doing both inspections at once. So generally speaking, you're looking at about $100, maybe up to $120 for a 4-point, and then the wind mitt is tacked on for an additional smaller fee.
One of the questions we got from out of one of our Central Florida listeners, that he is looking for a house in the Clearmont area, and he heard about a lot of areas that seem to have a lot of problem with sinkholes. And also we have another fellow from Brevard that was concerned about flood insurance. When somebody's shopping and the area looks fine, but they don't know if it's a sinkhole area or if it's a flood zone or not, what is it that they need to do to is that something that would make them defer away or not to consider that property because it might be in one of these two things? Or what is your thoughts on that?
I'm so glad you asked, because that is huge in Florida right now. The sinkhole situation, basically all you can really do without getting a $1,500 geological survey, all you can really do is ask if there have been problems with sinkholes in the area, and a realtor should know that, or at least be familiar with it if there is a problem with sinkholes in the area. Other than that, there are special surveys you can get and special inspections. However, in Florida, from an insurance point of view, insurance companies now cover what's called catastrophic ground collapse. Now, that simply means that if your house falls into a hole, it is covered. It would need to be a major situation, catastrophic, meaning that a portion of your house has actually fallen into a sinkhole. We're not talking about cracks, settlement cracks up the side of the house, or settlement cracks in the driveway or sidewalks, or small little pit holes in the backyard. What we're talking about is if, for example, your bedroom fell into a hole on the property. That would be considered catastrophic ground collapse. And that's a whole other conversation you and I could have as to why they changed the wording on that. It happened several years ago, where people were making claims, claiming sinkhole problems with small hairline settlement cracks up the side of their house and in their driveways. It turned into a big issue in the state of Florida. So now the wording has changed. Now you asked me about flood. Flood insurance is probably the most undersold insurance as far as property is concerned in Florida, and it's very, very easy to get. A lot of agents don't want to bother with it. We certainly do. We sell a lot of it. The reason being is because sometimes if you're in a particular flood zone, flood insurance can be very expensive, and it requires yet another inspection called an elevation certificate. And that basically is a survey that's done that tells you how high your house is above
sea level,
the sea level or the floodplain, that sort of thing. And that's an extra step. Now, you can buy flood insurance from the National Insurance Flood Program, or you can buy it from private carriers now have opened up and offering it. So it is certainly always worth asking your agent for a flood quote if you're even remotely considered about flood in your area.
I see. So from what I gathered from you is the most important factors you guys need to make sure you're aware of when you're shopping for a house is the age of the updates in the house in terms of roof, electric, plumbing, the AC unit. It's a huge factor when it comes to your insurance inspection. And so also if you are in a sinkhole area or in a flood zone, which Rocky have mentioned that it's very undersold policy that you can be able to have that peace of mind and shop for it. And that's exactly why we're addressing this today, because obtaining insurance in your house, this is your biggest investment that you're making of your lifetime. This is where you're going to raise your kids and you have a roof on top of your family. So you want to make sure it's well protected and you have that peace of mind. So Rocky, we do thank you very much for your time, and I hope we're going to see you in other times pretty soon.
Thank you. Absolutely. It's a privilege to be here.
And again, Roy Malfres is the CEO of Today Financial Group, which is he's been doing that for 20 years, and he's an expert when it comes to this subject. And it was a pleasure for us to have him, and we'll be more than happy to accept your questions and concerns. Please feel free to reach us, and always thank you with Shimi Real Talk and Islam Shimi.